Can you even see me? It is meeting morning, and I got words. My brother's trying to get a job up here, and he was talking about his interview and stuff, and pay, and it just got me thinking about a lot of that stuff, and how I used to think versus how I started to think. People think that management has all the power, and labor has all the power. Labor Day's coming up. No. Management does have all the power as long as you are a bad employee. For as long as you do the bare minimum work in order to, I work as little as possible to not get fired, and they pay me as little as possible to not quit, that is poison. That is poison for all parties involved. Not only does it not benefit you and not benefit them, it actively hurts you. And it hurts them too. If you are, it's just poison, man. I don't want to, oh gosh, come on. It builds resentment on both parties. And when you consider what the opposite is, what the potential of the opposite of that is, there's just no contest. So on one side, you don't get paid enough, and your boss doesn't like you, and you don't like your boss, and everyone's miserable, and life just sucks. And you get up in the morning and you get to go to a job you hate. Congrats. On the other end of that, and this is where employees have all the power, is where you take your job seriously. When you start to do your job like you care about it. The thing to keep in mind is, you know how you have that bare minimum that you have to do? Like, you can't do literally nothing all day. You can't show up and play Counter-Strike on your PC and expect to keep your job. There's a level, there's a cutoff point. Your boss has that cutoff point too. And your boss's cutoff point is higher than yours. So you need to figure out where your boss's cutoff point is, or at least understand that he has one too. He answers to someone too. All the way up the chain. So what you need to do is help your boss do stuff. You need to help your boss to look good, to get work done faster. I want to say kiss his butt, but you're not. Kissing his butt doesn't help him do his job better. You could be in one of those situations where the boss literally is just like an idiot and does as little as possible, and then kissing his butt is really the only way to do it. And I think that's very rare, and if that's the case, this ain't for you. Now, the trap is to think that your boss is that and not be honest with yourself about it. Because if you went to your boss and said, hey, I've been thinking about this, I've been listening to a few audiobooks, I've been trying to improve myself, and don't lie. Lying is bad, always. You should listen to audiobooks. You should try to improve yourself. But you become an asset is the most important thing. But go to your boss, tell him all this, and say, hey, I realize that it is my job, basically, to make you look good or to help you get stuff off your plate. Because most of the time, bosses are picking up slack for other people, and they've got way too much on their plate. So if you go in there and you start doing this is the one thing. If you can do this, then everything switches. If you can convince your boss to give you more work, and that means you got to do the work well. And that's where kind of the keyboard stuff comes in, optimizing workflow, all that stuff. If you can take on more work, and I know you can. I know you can. I don't even know you, and I know you can. But if you can take on more work and you can take stuff off your boss's plate, when you go in the morning and you go, oh man, I got a lot of work today, your boss looks over at you, and instead of seeing an empty hole that is actively sucking work or actively spitting out a geyser, I guess, something that's actively causing him more work, he sees a thing that is helping him get more done. Or if you're just doing more work, if you're upping your numbers, then he sees someone who is a value and an asset to his team and his company. So once you stop being a thing that he hates or she hates, once you stop being that and you start becoming an asset rather than a liability to the company, guess what? You get power. You get the power to be able to go in and say, all right, two things. I've been doing this for 3 months. I'm getting really good at this. I am interested in either other work, or other people are talking to me about work, or, grievance number 1, grievance number 2, as long as they're, kind of valid. Feel like I'm doing too much work for the amount of pay, and I know I could be getting paid more elsewhere. And I'm not talking about doing 10% more work and getting a 5% more raise. I'm talking about really pulling out the stops. I'm talking about seeing what the maximum of your abilities is. I'm not like rah 110%. I'm talking about really breaking down your job, breaking down the process, and doing as much as you can so that you prove value. So when you prove value, because what you're doing when you ask for a raise, you go into your boss and you say, hey boss, I know you got a balance sheet. I know you got money coming in and money going out. And I am a money going out person. Because you're payroll. You are an expense. But if you're bringing business in, if you're getting stuff done faster, if you are 1.5 employees, if you are getting 1.5 of the average amount of work done, you are another half an employee. And believe me, it's cheaper to give a superstar employee a raise than it is to watch him walk out the door and hire 1.5 people to replace him, because you can't. You wind up hiring 2 people. If you're doing the job of 2 people, you can get a 50% raise. You can probably get a 175 or a 75% raise. Just think about it from that perspective. The other thing is, if you are direct value to your boss, if your boss gets to stay at home on the weekends because you did extra work and caught him up, that is of extrinsic value to your boss, because he's like, whoa, I have this free time. That's worth something to me. Even if that's not worth something to the company, that's worth something to the boss. He is the decision maker. That's the person you should be working toward helping. So when you get out of this adversarial relationship with your boss and you start becoming a teammate of your boss and really start working hard. I mean, there's I can talk for days about like process improvement and ways to improve your workflow. But once you start doing that, you break down this paradigm of me versus you, and you're better for it. So people don't realize about work is sometimes you don't like your work because you're bad at it, and you're bad at it. And if you get better at it, you feel better about it. To say, you're not really living up to your potential, and you go, yeah. There's not something inside you that can be. It's indignant. No, I'm the best employee there is, but you don't believe it. And there's very few people that are stuck in that right now that are like, oh, I'm the best employee, and I really believe it. It's delusional. So get a raise. That's what I was trying to say. When you get good at your job, when you are an accomplished person, when you are living up to your potential, as it were, you feel better about all of it. You feel better about your work, you feel better about yourself, and you start feeling like, I have something to give. I have something to add. I am a valuable employee. And when you start thinking like that, you stop dreading a job search. That's the other thing about negotiations. Don't negotiate. Figure out what your number is. Figure out your decision. Think it through, the entire process. How hard is it to go out and get a job? Let's say it's on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 7. Well, how hard is work? I don't like it, but it's kind of a 6. Okay, you've made your decision. But you've thought it through and you've made that decision. So you understand. So you're going to get up in the morning and you're going to go to that job and you're going to go, man, I really don't like this job, but at least I'm not looking for another job. That's the perspective you need. But if you get to that point where going to job is a 7, looking for work is a 7, and going to your job is an 8, you're like, all right, it's time. And you either do it yourself or your boss does it for you. Long after you should have done it. Because the boss is usually just kind of holding out hope that maybe they'll turn around, or, now's not a good time to hire another employee and train them. There's lots of stuff that goes into that. You think it's easy to fire someone. It's not. Just the training aspect of it is very difficult. And it sets everything back. But if you can make that decision, and you can go, all right, this changed and that changed, and my, work is now at a 5, or I forget what my scale was, I'm sorry. If going to work is a 10 of badness that you don't like, and looking for a new job is a 5, well then you know what you have to do. You can start early, you can start before you make your decision, you can start shopping around, you can start testing out your resume, you can start getting interviews. And don't worry about the interviews. If you want the interviews, you can go into the interviews and say, yeah, my rate is, 50% more than you would expect. And they'll go, okay, well, I'm sorry, but you're not really who we're looking for right now. Okay, have a nice day. That way you don't have to worry about, oh, well, they gave me an offer and it's 10% more than I expected, and I'm not sure if 10% more and it's a new job and lots of change and etc. So that way you can kind of get practice pretty easily just by outpricing some of these people. But then you feel a little bit more confident about going out into the job market. And you can start to really break down what you're adding. And believe me, if you've been adding to your business, if you've been adding to your boss, then that's stuff that can go on your resume directly. That should be there. And then you can go to your boss and be frank. Hey, I'm getting offers, and they're higher than this. And I have grievances about these things. And I'd like them to either change or me to get a raise. And, that's where I am. I'm just being honest. And it's not a this and a that and a back and a forth, and maybe I could get more money, and what if I come in here, and what if I come in there? You figure out a dollar value of what it would really be worth to you to stay. Because once you figure out that number for yourself, that's your number. That's it. Call it a day. Hey, this is the raise I'm looking for. Here's why I think I deserve it. I've been doing this, I've been doing that, I've been doing the other, and I'm getting offers at this. Maybe he's looking to lower his payroll, and he goes, oh, thank God. Okay, go accept the offer. You got a great recommendation from me. Have a nice day. Thank you. And be prepared for that. And also be prepared for him to go, how dare you? A 5% raise? Get out of my office. All right? Have a nice day. As long as you're prepared for that, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You're not negotiating. Don't negotiate. Don't play games. Tell the truth. Figure out what that number is and be honest about it. And it needs to be a number that when you say it to yourself, you don't go, eh. It needs to be a number that you go, yep, that's it. And you probably already know the number. But the question is, are you worth it? Are you adding that value to your boss, to the company, to your team? And if you're not adding the value, believe me, that's going to be the easiest decision he's ever made. You better give me a raise of 1 penny or I quit. Oh, thank goodness. Get out. Thanks for giving me the ultimatum. You know, if you're not a valuable employee and your boss treats you like you're not a valuable employee, you probably don't feel like you're a valuable employee. And when you walk into that next interview and the guy says, all right, well, what made you a valuable employee at the last place? And you go, well, I showed up on time. There's a lot that goes into confidence. The first thing is really honesty.